Manager.
Having considered the matters raised, they are not in order under Standing Order 32. We now move to the order of business. Could I call on Thomas to announce the order for today?
The order of business today shall be as follows. A11, motion re-referred to Joint Committee of proposed approval by Dáil for a directive of the European Parliament and of the Council on preventing and combating trafficking in human beings and protecting victims, repealing Framework Decision 2002-629 JHA. Number B11, motion re-membership of committees. Number 22, the adoption bill 2009, order for report and final stage. Number 23, Nurses and Midwives Bill 2010, second stage resumed. It is proposed, notwithstanding anything in standing orders, that numbers 11 or A11 and B11 shall be decided without debate.
Now, there is one proposal to be put to the House today. Is the proposal for dealing with items number A11 and B11, motion to referral to Joint Committee for approval of a European directive on preventing trafficking, and also membership of committees without debate, agreed to. Agreed. Deputy Kenny on the order of business.
I thought you looked shocked there for a minute, Concorda.
The result of your letter.
From your letter, yeah. I'd like to ask the Taoiseach in relation to a number of matters, if I may. It now transpires that the HSE are confused about the request that Minister for Children, Minister Andrews, gave them. We were told that it was impossible to get the numbers of children who may have died in care of the state in the last decade. Now we're informed that this figure will be available in the next 2 days. May I ask the Taoiseach, what has happened that this information is now available as it should have been in the first place in the next 2 days, given that the Taoiseach, the Minister for Health, who seems to have washed her hands of this matter entirely, and the Minister of State were unable to confirm what the figure is? Secondly, may I ask the Taoiseach what progress has been made in regard to having the Attorney General approve the wording already agreed by the All-Party Oireachtas Committee in respect of a referendum on children's rights? I note that the Amnesty International report today joins in the request that this matter be dealt with as quickly as possible. I respect the fact that we have to get the wording right. I'd like to know what progress Minister Andrews has made in giving his proposal to the Attorney General for confirmation to the government so that we can have this referendum. Thirdly, the government voted down a Fine Gael proposal last December to transfer the remit of the CNAG to deal with the audit of the Dublin Docklands Authority, and that had the support of other parties in the House. The Minister for the Environment is now of the opinion and view that this should be so. Can I ask the Taoiseach, is that to be done based on what the Minister said yesterday by regulation, or does it require primary legislation? And if so, when that legislation will come before the House? And finally, may I ask you, as has been pointed out by Deputy Flanagan in his responsibility with housing on a number of occasions, the number of people now in mortgage arrears is rising by 4,000 a month. What is the government's response in terms of a policy decision to deal with this serious matter for a rising number of people, now over 36,000, may go as high as 300,000?
Thompson.
Just to say a number of things. First of all, the Taoiseach, the Minister for Health, the Minister for Children and the senior executives of the HSE met yesterday afternoon to follow on with the issues of concern raised by the government. I think it's important to say that in March of this year, the Minister for Children, Minister Andrews, did write to the Chairman of the HSE asking for the information as required to be made available to him. Actually, in April he didn't receive correspondence until May of this year, and following on from that he took the action that he did in the context of ensuring that information is made available. And I think it's important to say that when the Minister raised this issue with the HSE and the forthcoming correspondence in response to him, there was absolutely no view that there was any confusion or issues raised by the HSE at that time. I think it's important to say that following on from the meeting yesterday afternoon with the Taoiseach and the senior executives, that the HSE are responding to the request for information and that the Taoiseach on everyone's behalf expressed the absolute necessity of the importance and the urgency of that matter, and that information will be made available. As you know, and on that basis there is no confusion as to what has been requested under the HICWA guidelines. On the second issue that you raised, which is the issue of a referendum, the Minister for Children hopes to have a memo for government by the end of June. The wording is being considered by a number of government departments as outlined in the House by him about 2 weeks ago, so that matter is progressing as quickly as possible. On the third issue that you raised, which was the issue of the CNAG carrying out his work either through a special report or under the auspices of his own powers on the Dublin Dockland Authority, that will be done by statutory instrument. Will not need, the advice is that it does not need primary legislation. And the final issue you raised, which was regard to mortgage arrears, as you know, the government has set up a group to examine these issues, and they hope to report to government by the end of June.
Deputy Kenny.
I just want to respond very briefly. This is an example of what happens when a government is in office for 13 years. We're now left with a situation of a national debt of 100 billion, having been tripled in the last 2.5 years, a deficit this year of over 20 billion, and a situation where the Taoiseach of the country, the Minister for Health of the country, the Minister for Children, is unable to answer a simple but serious question as to the number of children who died in the care of this state in the last 10 years. Now, we've had all this spin and all of this waffle and all of the meetings that took place yesterday, and suddenly answers can be given. The fact of the matter is, as I pointed out yesterday, under the 2000 national, the NTMA Act of 2000 requires that incidents would be reported by law to that body, and that information in terms of numbers should have been available at the push of a button. And that's a disgraceful position that the government are unable to get their act together, and confusion is the order of the day, both within government and within the HSE. As has been described by members of your own Oireachtas party, it is now a dysfunctional Frankenstein. Secondly, I'm interested in your comment that the legislation in respect of wording will be available by the end of June. We've got, I think, 17 working days left here before the House proposes to rise for the summer period. This is an issue that you said yourself is of such importance that it should be a standalone matter. Let's see, are the government prepared to back up your words? Finally, may I say, Taoiseach, you said in response to my question about the transfer of the authority to be given to the CNAG to carry out the audit in respect of the DWDA, that it would be done by statutory instrument. Now, the Minister for the Environment wrote to the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee on the 22nd of September 2009, and this is what he said. The Minister for Finance has indicated to you that it is not possible, arising from a Supreme Court judgment, to extend the remit of the CNAG by way of ministerial order, as originally provided for under Section 21 of the CNAG Amendment Act of 1993. Amendment of primary legislation is a matter for the Dáil, and in this instance, amending legislation would be required to give effect to the committee's request. The Minister for the Environment has responsibility for the general area of the CNAG in this matter, and he says in his letter of September 2009 that primary legislation will have to be amended, and that legislation is required in order for that to happen. You say it's being done by statutory instrument. The Minister with responsibility for the area says it requires legislation. The Minister for Finance says it requires legislation. Can I ask you, will you correct the record now, and can you indicate when this legislation will come before the House?
Answer.